What's going on, my people interested in making money online? So we talk about a lot of different topics on this channel, right? Like we talk about freelancing, talk about copywriting, and naturally a big part of that and something that comes with that is attracting a lot of people who are in one way or another maybe interested in quitting their jobs, right? And you know, I've been able to quit my job. This is my first year being totally self-employed. I love it. But a question that I get a lot, and a question that I see a lot in places like Reddit, I get this in response to my email newsletter, and sometimes I see it in the comments, is why would you give freelancing a chance? Like, why would you even bother? Why would you want to become a self-employed freelancer if you have a job, right? And a lot of people ask that question because with a job, you're getting paid, you get benefits. In some cases, it's a lot easier to just go to work and make money with a job than to try to spin up your own business and going to get clients and dealing with customer problems and all that stuff. Like that I get, and that is true to an extent, right? Like if you have a job, that stuff comes easier. And if you're making enough to survive with your job, you know, why would you consider freelancing? Well, one crazy stat that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I'll put it up on the screen here, and obviously I don't have the stat in front of me, but I think it's something like 50% of young Americans either have a side hustle or have a side hustle and say that they think they're going to need to have a side hustle for the foreseeable future. So what that tells me is people who have jobs, a lot of people who have jobs, like 50% of people who have jobs, aren't making enough money from their jobs. So they're freelancing or doing a side hustle. And I always think of that statistic when I get people asking, oh, why bother with freelancing when you have a job? Well, a simple situation or a simple reason why you might want to bother with freelancing even if you have a job is that like 50% of people watching this probably need to freelance or do a side hustle even if they have a job. So that alone, it's like, come on, right? Like we live in a time where companies almost have a monopoly over talent, right? Or a monopoly over the workforce, where they're not raising rates or raising pay like they used to back in the day, right? They're just not. I remember, you know, when I started working, I'm 33, when I was like 16 and I was working my first job, it was standard. You got a cost, it was called the cost of living wage increase every year. And it was about 2% or an inflationary raise, whatever people call it. Nowadays, to cover the cost of inflation, you'd need like a 7, 8, or 9% raise. And I can almost guarantee, I know this for a fact, companies just aren't giving raises that big. So what gives, right? Like, why would you consider freelancing? Why would you consider a side hustle? Well, it's because most jobs just aren't paying enough and your pay is not increasing fast enough to keep up with how expensive life is, right? And here's the other thing, right? Like, the second you make $1,000 per month doing whatever it is you're doing, like for me, it was copywriting. It took me probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months. I'll try to put up my Fiverr analytics screen on this screen too when I edit this. I think it took me 6 months or so before I was in that ballpark of consistently making $1,000 per month with freelancing. As soon as you hit that threshold, because $1,000 is a pretty substantial amount, it might not be enough to pay for your lifestyle, but it's enough to change your life. Once you hit that amount, what I found was instantly how hard it was to build a freelancing business, all the things you have to worry about, you know, getting clients, dealing with clients, working all hours of the night when you're getting it started up and you have ideas and, you know, you really have to be available when your clients need you. All of that went out the window and I'm like, wow, I made $1,000. This is possible. I can now make $10,000 or I can now make $20,000. The whole idea of it being harder than the job totally went out the window. And it's a funny thing because a lot of people think that it's too hard, or they think that having a job is just the easier route and they want to stick with that. But is it the easier route? Because when you think about it, a lot of people go to work, they're getting paid what they get paid, but it's almost like a struggle where if you're not totally in love with your job and you're not totally getting fulfillment from it, an 8-hour shift doing something you've done for 10 years can feel like a 20-hour shift. And I know a lot of you probably feel this way. Sorry about that. The video just cut off. My phone got an emergency alert. But yeah, what was I saying? An 8-hour shift at a job that you're kind of over can feel like an insane amount of time. And it can feel like a 20-hour shift, right? Because you just don't want to be there. When you make that first $1,000 as a freelancer, it kind of triggers your brain and turns you into an entrepreneur and an enthusiastic entrepreneur, because all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is possible. I made this myself. I made this without having to clock in, my punch card, every day at a company I'm not too crazy about. I did this. If $1,000 is possible, $10,000 is possible. And that's one of the big reasons that I try to advocate for why people should give freelancing a try, right? It is fulfilling. It does unlock this part of people that a lot of people who work jobs don't ever get to experience, and that's the thrill of putting food on your own table. It's amazing, right? And going back to the whole stat that like half of young Americans need more money than what they're getting from their job, and they're turning to side hustles anyways. What do you really have to lose, right? Like some people even say like, oh, with my job, I get benefits. One thing a lot of people don't know is a lot of the times you're either paying for your benefits through payroll deductions, or your wage is compensating for the benefits you're getting. So there's that. Sure, some companies do have great benefits packages, but you can also buy benefits as a self-employed freelancer. I remember working at a tech startup, I don't know, a handful of years ago. It was so small, no benefits. I had to do the research to go out and find a benefits plan that we would buy for the company for us. It was like $180, $200 something a month. Not a crazy amount of money. And when you're running your own business, you can write that off at tax time, right? Like you send the cost to your accountant and they do whatever they do, and you get money back from the taxes you've paid because that is a business expense. So, I mean, I guess this is a little bit of a rant, but the whole idea is that, why bother with freelancing? Well, because a lot of people have to freelance or do some form of a side hustle anyways. And, freelancing, side hustle, it's kind of the same thing. It's synonymous. Most people need to do that because life is so expensive. And to all the other objections of, benefits, or, a job is easy, this is that. I mean, not really, right? As soon as you make that first $1,000, the motivation factor kicks in. You've learned how to make 1,000. You can learn to make 2. You can learn to make 3. You can learn to make 4. And a lot of the times, up until like $10,000 or $20,000 a month, it's just doing more of the same thing. So it's not even like you have to reinvent the wheel. Benefits you can buy, and it unlocks freedom. Like the reason for why freelance is, the main reason, I guess, now I'm ranting, is how many times do you finish a shift? I used to be like this. You're tired. It's been an 8, 9, 10-hour day, and now you have an hour-long commute home. And then you get home and you have to shower and get out of your dirty work clothes and cook dinner. There's like 2 or 3 hours tacked on to every day with a 9-to-5 job that never gets accounted for in how much you're making or the quality of life. If you're able to successfully start a freelance business, yes, it'll be harder to start. Yes, you have to put food on your own table. You get that time back. You get that time to do what I'm doing now, drive into the gym. You get that time to spend time with your loved ones. You get that time to go shopping and spend the money you're making, whatever you want. It is great. I would consider freelancing. What do you have to lose? Most of the objections you're probably giving yourself are probably just because there's this fear of the unknown, but I think you can do it. Check it out.